They're calling this thing in Gaza a ceasefire, but let's be honest. It's not a ceasefire if y'all killing babies. There's this arbitrary yellow line that keeps moving, and to the point where some people are like, they'll wake up and the line is moved and then they get bombed. So a pause with shifting terms that are only in the control of the occupier is not an actual pause. That means nothing. But it is being used, the situation is being used as cover by Western imperialists through the Security Council to shrink Gaza even further and confine them to half the space as before, living in further and further squalor in tighter and tighter concentrations. And they're not doing anything about the conditions on the ground. There's a little more food being let in, but it's nowhere near what was promised. So that people are still living in tents in the burnt out, bombed out rubble of everything. Drinking contaminated water, getting sick of basic ailments, dying of treatable infections, and the infrastructure's been obliterated completely. And now there's all this rainwater getting into all their tents and completely flooding everything. And not to diminish that suffering in any way, but if you zoom out to the bigger picture, none of this is new. This is the tip of the spear of Western imperialism as it's been played out for hundreds of years. This is the same thing they did against the Native Americans, the indigenous Africans, all across the world. Even my own ancestors in Europe, empire after empire, wiped out. So we all have this genetic heritage of colonization and trauma, which we need to deal with collectively, but not this way. The voice of darkness, the voice of the death cult, is that this is normal and you should just give in. This is history. What are you going to do about it? And they would like to go back to the old days of that Old Testament world where people would just annihilate each other en masse and that was okay. But yeah, that's also deceptive. We'd love to think that colonization is ancient history and that's something in the past, when it's actually, in fact, ongoing to this day in active mode, maybe even worse than ever before. And they're always moving borders, breaking treaties, tightening the noose, and blaming the people they dispossess. And I own my own part in that, benefiting from living inside of the seat of empire in the dollar hegemonic bubble. So with great privilege and power comes great responsibility to change these systems from the inside out regeneratively. So in that sense, some kind of Holocaust has never really stopped. Like, they've just changed hats and flags over the years. That's not to diminish the severity of any single one of them, because there's always some kind of most recent target of so-called civilization. And that's a legacy we need to end collectively now, please.